You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
What's up, nerds?
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 20.
Good evening, everybody. How are you out there in TV land?
TV land, man. Wrong medium there, Steve.
The verbophone, whatever it is. Is that even a thing? I don't even know if that's a thing.
I don't know if it's a thing, but let's roll with it. Why not?
Let's roll with it.
It's our show. We can do what we want, right?
You know, my grandparents actually in their back room used to have this record player that had one of those big, huge bell things on it. And I think it's actually called something different than a record player. It's like
gramophone?
A gramophone.
Something like that. This is a recording of Little Bo Peep. I don't know. Whatever it was. So, Steve, what is going on, man? How are you? What is new? I know we have talked some, but it's been kind of crazy. What's new? What's going on, man?
Life is busy as usual. This past weekend, Carter, my oldest son, participated in his Destination Imagination, which is that STEM thing I've been telling you guys about. And he went to state.
I thought it was STEAM now. Is it STEAM?
It's STEM. Well, no, yes. So it is STEAM because they've added the arts. Yeah. Good call. But anyway, so this is his thing that he's involved with. His team's been working hard. They went to state, which was held out in our kind of close to our hometown, out in DeKalb, Illinois, at Northern Illinois University.
Yeah. What up?
And I actually took a picture of the Duke Ellington Ballroom to send to you, Spence, and some of the castles that we used to climb back in the day.
I think the last time I was at Duke Ellington Ballroom was my senior prom.
Booyah!
That's a while ago.
Good times. But anyway, so we went out there this past weekend, and it was fun. We had a good time. They did not go on to Globals, which would be held in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they were a little disappointed about that, but it was a fun time, and they worked hard. So they were proud of their accomplishments. But afterwards, we went to a little place known by only a few that might be listening to this, called Pizza Villa.
Oh
which is a little dive pizza place that is on Northern Illinois University's campus, and Spencer and I used to go there many a time as kids and have birthday parties and all the rest. And it's basically this pizza place that has a lower level arcade, and that's where many a Double Dragon and Bad Dudes and Simpsons and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was played.
Yes. You know, the funny thing about that is when I was on Sean Capri's podcast, We the Gamercast, he was asking me about some of my early memories with playing arcades, and I totally talked about Pizza Villa because it was one of the places we'd go to, and I kind of told him this story about how we'd always try to convince Dad to take us over to DeKalb for pizza because we had to have the pizza nuggets, right? Because it was the only place that had beer. Yeah, they call them beer nuggets, but to the kids, they market them as pizza nuggets or whatever.
Yeah, they're basically just dough squares that have been deep fried, and then you got marinara sauce.
Right, exactly. But I knew that if I convinced Dad to take us there, I got to play video games.
Well, what's funny now is taking kids now. So I took the whole team, and then a few of the parents came as well. But I saw the value as a parent now, right? Because you get to stay up top while you talk and eat and whatever else, and the kids just go downstairs and do their thing, and it's separation of church and state, and it's beautiful.
Right. Hey, let me ask you this. Do they still have the creepy little clown that flips around the little pole?
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah.
And when we first took my kids there, they were my little daughter was like, "Daddy, I'm scared." I'm like, "So is Father." But yeah, so they still have the thing, and they also still have a little box type thing with Fred Flintstone in the middle, and it's a bunch of like plastic eggs that have little trinkets and tchotchke crap inside.
Right.
And you put a quarter in, and it's like yabba dabba doo, yabba dabba doo. So my son does this thing, and I'm like, oh, that's from my childhood. And this little egg pops out. He's like, what'd I get for my 50 cents, Dad? They've upped the price by double. So he cracks this thing open. There's like a little like penguin eraser, one of those flat little. He's like, what the crap is this? I'm like, I know, son. I know.
That's how we felt when we were your age.
I know. I just did it for the yabba dabba doo.
Right? Yeah.
So anyway, I had a good time there. It was good being out there. My other kids got to spend some time with Grandma, which is always a fun thing. And they watch more TV, play more video games in a day than they do in like a month at our house. So they love being at Grandma's house.
Nice.
But yeah, it was good to be out there with family and friends. And and right when I got to Pizzaville, this is just between Spencer and I, so everybody else don't have to listen. I walk in and I'm making our order, and suddenly behind me, Jenny Pollitt, who's now Jenny Slater, comes like, Steve. I'm like, whoa. Jenny. Yeah. So total blast from the past.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I hope you told her I said hello. Yep, you forgot.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I've got Jenny on Facebook, and I see her and husband and kids and the like, and yeah, she gosh, I don't know what it is, but she looks to me, at least on Facebook, the pictures I see, looks to me just like she did in high school.
She does.
Yeah.
She does. And I got to meet her husband, sweet guy, and they were there with some friends. And I got to meet all 4 of her kids. And so she has 4 kids, 3 girls and 1 boy. Little Gabriel's the youngest. I'm like, be strong, Gabe, be strong. So, and her husband was wearing a Packers jersey, but that I will forgive. So anyway, but it was good to see old friends.
Yeah, cool.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. So how was your week?
My week has been really good. Let's see. My mom came into town to visit because my brother Josh was blessing his youngest child in church on this last Sunday. And funny enough, my mom called me Monday night of last week and said, hey, so are you going to pick me up at the airport tomorrow? And I just kind of looked dumbfounded. I had this expression on my face. My wife was looking at me like, what's going on? Trying to mouth it to you, kind of like a stage whisper. What's going on? I was like, I don't know, but I think my mom just said she's flying in tomorrow. And turns out, yeah, my mom had told me a couple of weeks ago. I'd apparently forgotten, but mom was flying in and I was picking her up. And I said, so where are you staying? She's like, at your house. I'm like, oh, okay. And then, of course, I tell that to Brita, and, she goes into panic mode, like, we got to clean and fresh sheets on the bed, and we got to do the thing and get all the kids cleaned up, and it's bath night, and So I probably could have been a better husband and pre-warned my wife well ahead of time mom was coming. I didn't, and everything turned out fine. Let's be honest. Everything turned out fine. Everyone was okay.
It always
We're
does. Good. And your mom doesn't mind bed bugs. That's fine.
No, not at all. While she was here, one night they arranged for like this photographer to take not the photographer to take, but we took all of our kids out to this orchard in Kaysville, and there's like these cherry trees, and they're all blossoming right now. And so this photographer took pictures of just the grandkids, with the idea that, we'll be able to get all these photos, and we'll have them, but we can get them for my mom, for Nana. And Charlie was just having a blast. The photographer lady got him to say Stinky Pete. And for some reason, he just started cracking up and laughing and then repeating, Stinky Pete, Stinky Pete, Stinky Pete, like to try to get every kid to laugh when they took pictures. And so he was kind of like the little photographer assistant to the rest of the photo shoot, and just wouldn't not leave her alone. But the lady really loved Charlie's picture, one of Charlie's pictures that turned out. So she used it on the cover of like her Facebook to kind of show off some of the photos. And so it was really kind of cool. We got a little preview of Charlie, and man, in that photo, he looks like he's 7. He's 4 right now. He's 4, but he looks 7. It's crazy. So that happened. Let's see here. I'm super busy at work. We've got the new guy, and he's coming along and doing well. And it's possible we may hire another IT guy just because we're getting just slammed. And I feel like for as much work as I do, I'm constantly now giving away work, and my list like never really empties. It just continues to fill back up. So right in the thick of things, work's good. It's just busy. I'm still playing Breath of the Wild on my Nintendo Switch. Most evenings, Brita plays along with me and kind of helps me find hidden shrines. I'm around 70 hours played right now on the game. Mm-hmm. And I think probably when I finish, it'll be somewhere upwards of 100 hours. Because this game's huge and open world, so you can just spend so much time like looking and exploring and finding like little things. And anyway, having a ton of fun. I'm rewatching Arrested Development, Steve. I thought you'd like to hear that. Love that show.
Great show. That is a great show.
I think I've made a huge mistake. So
there's money in the banana stand.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm doing that. Just kind of, I'm not watching anything new. I'm just kind of rewatching a couple old things right now. But let's see. Oh, one last thing I want to talk about before we go on. I really want to apologize to our listeners for last week. Something happened when we upload the podcast. Here's a little behind the scenes. So go ahead and pull that curtain back and catch the wizard as he's whirling and cranking on things and honking that little horn and, trying to put on a good show, right? Every week when we get done recording the podcast, we upload our files to a Google Drive, and then I assemble them and edit them. And when it's all edited, I load it up into our hosting service. And the hosting service then, when it's scheduled to release, updates the feed. And this RSS feed gets picked up by iTunes and Google Play Music, where we have our podcast. Well, Google, fine. Ran like a champ last week, no problems. iTunes, well, there was a slight hiccup. If you subscribe to the show, it showed up fine for you in your list, and it downloaded to your device, and you were able to listen, not a problem. But if you actually just went to the iTunes store on your phone or on your computer to find our podcast, our newest episode, last week's episode, Cyborg Madness, wasn't listed. And it pretty much went like the entire day Thursday with it not being listed. And so when I became aware of that for some reason, because I heard from a couple of people that said, yeah, you posted and said that it was up, but I don't see it. And so by the time I was able to actually kind of get to it and see that, I found out that it wasn't there. And then I contacted someone at Apple, which kind of went unresolved, but I found some forum posts and some information. And so I figured out what I needed to do to kind of refresh that feed. And so it ended up showing up like late Thursday night. And so a technical glitch. And so we apologize from us here at the Fortress of Nerditude. We apologize. So if you're listening to this episode and you're hearing this and you somehow missed last episode, go back and it's there. You can go download it. But if you do subscribe, like we do always say to subscribe so you automatically get it and you don't miss it, you would have been fine. And so I know we had a few people reach out to me and say, hey, I just subscribed and now I can see it. Not a problem. So
that was really a long excuse for the reason that Spencer didn't pay his utility bill. That's really what happened.
That's not it, man. Listen, if they'd stop paying so dang much for them gigawatts.
1.21 gigawatts, the Libyans.
Yeah. Anyway, so a kind of a long story, a little peek behind the curtain, but that happened, and so we do apologize. We strive really, really hard to make sure that every Thursday morning the podcast is there for you. So
for your listening enjoyment. And last week was a great show, so don't miss it. And if you haven't heard it or didn't get a chance to download it due to the glitch, aka utility bill, hit it and quit it, and you'll love the show. So one thing that you brought up that has brought to my mind, so we went on spring break. I think I talked about this when we recorded when I was at my brother and sister-in-law's house
up in Minnesota. Yeah.
A lot of times what my wife and I will do is we'll just get a book on, not tape, on CD now, but we'll just download a book or get a book from the library on CD. And we try to get, ones that the kids will like, but that we can still enjoy as well. And we found this series, and I'm not sure, this is probably more like a young adult series, but I like freaking guilty pleasured it. Like I was totally into it. And we got to places like
Harry Potter again, Steve? Really?
Yeah, right. And Where the Wild Things Grow? No. but it's a book series by an author, and I'm not sure how well known she is in certain circles, but I think she's like a young teen author, but her name is Jennifer Nielsen, and she's written a trilogy called the Ascendants trilogy, and it starts with a book called The False Prince, and it's a really well-written book about a nobleman that lives kind of back in knights and horse times, and he's trying to unite this kingdom where the royal family has been killed, but nobody really knows about it yet. Only kind of the inner circle of nobles, and so he goes to these orphanages to try to find like lookalikes for the prince, their youngest son that got sent away to like a boarding school, and may be the only kind of way to unite the kingdom. But he was killed by pirates, but nobody knows that either. Anyway, I don't want to get the story.
Wait a minute. He's trying the dead goldfish routine?
That's right,
the goldfish dies and you flush it, so you go to the store and get another goldfish and hope your kid doesn't know? That's what he's doing?
But it's so much better written than that. Yes. So if you've got kids ages I don't know, 8 to 14 or whatever, or if you just are like me, like a big kid, it's an awesome series. We started the second book called The Runaway Prince or something like that, and anyway, it's a great read, and it made the 6-hour drive to Minnesota feel like a 32-minute drive.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love audiobooks. I mean, I'm listening to one right now called The Magician King. It's a series by Lev Grossman. And there's actually a show on Sci-Fi right now called The Magicians, which it's based off the first book, The Magicians, and The Magician King, and which I'm reading. Nice. The only thing is it's kind of billed as like Harry Potter for adults, and I'm going to stress the adults portion because there's some language in it, and
really? There
was a sex scene or two that was described that wasn't like very graphic, but it definitely was. I wouldn't play it for my kids. Yeah. So it's kind of about a magical world where these students graduate high school, and then instead of matriculating to like Harvard or Yale, or whatever, they matriculate to basically a college for magicians that's hidden in secret, and so it's kind of like Harry Potter for grown-ups. It's really good, but not for kids. I mean, not for kids. So,
speaking of Harry Potter not for kids, have you ever heard of Potter Puppet Pals?
No.
Okay, here. So do me a favor after the podcast, or anybody listening. My son showed me this last night, and it's like this guy on YouTube. He's made these like finger puppets for like Harry Potter, and he's like, "Hey Harry, how you doing, Ron?" And like freaking hilarious. There's one where like Harry goes to Ron and like says, your sister Ginny is so hot, man. She's like so hot, I can't even handle it. And like he goes back over, he's like, Ginny, I think you'd be really cute with like a bob cut. I think you should cut your hair. You'd be so cute. And then he goes back over to Ron. He's like, Ron, your sister's so hot. I don't know how to ask her out. And he's like, maybe I could practice on you. And so he's like, here, put this bow in your hair, And so he's talking to Ron. He pretends like, he's like, Ginny, I really like you, and so I'd like to kiss you, And so they pretend. He's like, all right, good enough. I'm ready to go. And so he goes back over to this other scene, and Ginny has cut her hair, and now the finger puppet looks exactly like Ron. And the Harry Potter's like, oh. So he goes back, looks at Ron, goes back, looks at Ginny. He's like, oh. He's like, I ruined it.
So give me the name of that again. Harry Potter Puppet Pals?
It's called Potter Puppet Pals, and there's one called Wizard Swears. It's freaking hilarious with Dumbledore. You just got to watch it. So just take a look if you haven't.
Okay, yeah.
Come back next week and tell me what you thought.
Sounds good.
Wizard Swears. Anyway.
Wizard Swears. All right. I will make a point to watch that and give you my thorough review next week.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad you had a good week. I had a good week. Glad to be back. Shall we get on with business as usual?
Let's do it, man. Let's get into our favorite part of the podcast.
Rebel Intelligence?
You know it, the one and only. It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, Rebel Intelligence. So, I feel, man, once again, 2017 just keeps kicking. And not in a good way, man. So
keeps killing,
right? It has taken another beloved performer. Now, Don Rickles is a name that I think for a younger generation they know because of the Toy Story movies, because he was the voice of Mr. Potato Head. For me, though, Steve, and I don't know about you, but like I never knew him as an actor like in the 60s and 70s on, some TV shows and, movies. But I remember him from like his appearances with Johnny Carson in like the 80s, right? I mean, I know he started appearing like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but Don Rickles became a huge, friend of people like Frank Sinatra and Johnny Carson. And I always remember like Carson always kind of had this kind of like group of like friends, right? And those
almost like a rat
friends,
pack.
Yeah, kind of. And they would always kind of come on his show. And what I really liked about Don Rickles is that like he always kind of played this kind of like cantankerous kind of old guy, like he was kind of like always like just like something was bugging him, like and like he kind of was like
a bad mood.
It kind of like like a bad mood, and he kind of played up like the insult comedian, and kind of he kind of would like heckle other people, but like he always did it with kind of a sly smile and like a little wink to his eye, like you knew that like it was all a show. Like this was all just for a laugh. Right. And so, unfortunately, Don Rickles has passed away just last week. He was 91 years old when he passed, and I believe it was heart failure. Anyway.
And you talk about being on the Carson show. He was on Johnny Carson more than 100 times.
I think more than anyone, right?
Yeah. So, but again, people would probably know him best as like don't forget your angry eyes. Like he was
right.
And now, what happened with the latest Toy Story 4?
So I think Toy Story 4 is still being written. Like the script is being worked on. So there would be no dialogue for him, so he obviously hasn't recorded anything for Toy Story 4. So the question will become, do they cut him out? Like, do they cut out Mr. Potato Head's character and find a way to write around the character and leave the character out? He's on another adventure somewhere. He was left at a friend's house, something like that. Mm-hmm. Or do they recast the voice? Because I know that sounds tough, right? I mean, because Don Rickles had a very distinct voice. However, I think because he has a distinct voice, there's got to be impersonators that probably do a really spot-on Don Rickles impersonation. At least I would imagine so.
Or doesn't he have enough material that you could do a little Tupac action and just like auto-tune that junk?
So Don Rickles is going to show up as a hologram at Coachella, is what you're saying?
That's right.
No, I mean, yeah, I think it's possible with all his dialogue from the movies that, if they wanted to really do some heavy editing, they probably could put together the words they need and give him dialogue and make it work. But still, I mean, that would take some serious skills on an audio engineer's part to make that happen. Anyway.
Well, just a great guy and one that I think made insults funny, right? He referred to his audiences as hockey pucks.
Right. Right. Our thoughts, our prayers go out to the Don Rickles family at this time. I understand it's a time of grief and of pain and mourning, but sad to see him go.
What I had on the list was that GameStop just recently announced that there was a possible breach of customers' credit card information, which is on Rebel Intelligence because the last few podcasts we've talked about the Nintendo Switch. A lot of people put it on hold at GameStop, and they had mentioned a time span when they think that the alleged incident took place, and it was between mid-September and early February. So I don't know if people put deposits down on credit cards or whatnot, but they did say that 3-digit credit cards, the security codes in the back, were also included in that information, which isn't usually the case.
So scary.
So the funny thing is, though, is like, I mean, it seems like every company has gone through this. Home Depot and Target, and I mean, it seems like only a matter of time.
Sony went through it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a kind of a way of life,
I mean, it's sad and it's unfortunate like this happens, but I mean, you put that information in into the computer, and we load it up, and we've gotten so used to that, right? I mean, that's such a way of life now, is ordering things online. So you go in, you put in your credit card information, you put in your 3-digit or 4-digit code, and off you go. And usually you're not that worried, but more and more it does seem like this happens.
I was just reading somewhere though where I honestly can't remember. I didn't think to bring this up, but it was either in India or in China where they're starting to use like strictly fingerprints and like retinal scans for like purchases and things like that, where literally it's there's no plastic anymore. Like credit cards are kind of phasing out, and that they're starting to use kind of almost biomedical scans to make purchases and things like that, which will start replicating my fingerprints.
Right. And I mean, I know there's other things like in the digital currency world of like Bitcoin, you've got something called like a blockchain, and it's like this big encrypted number, and you got your account tied to it, and there's just different security. So there are different measures and different ways of purchasing things and kind of going about that. But some of that stuff isn't widely accepted. Like if I had to start purchasing everything by retinal scan right now, I mean, is there like a USB retinal device that I have to like take around with me so I can plug it into my work computer or my home computer? How does that work with like an iPad or an Android phone? Is there a USB dongle that I would plug a retinal scanner into my phone? You know what I'm saying? Like there's that sorts of things. I mean, Apple and Samsung each have their pay. There's NFC field technology where you can store your credit card information in your phone, and then you just tap your phone to like the little reader, and it does that. So I mean, there's lots of different things, but what's the safest, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think the nice thing about it is that, credit card companies obviously know that this is an issue, and they're fairly quick to,
cancel your card, like take back charges, get you a new card. Yeah, it's true. It's a liability for them. They have to.
Yep. Yeah. So what else you got?
So this is interesting. We talked about this a little while ago. Carrie Fisher reportedly, obviously, shot all of her footage for Star Wars Episode 8. And apparently she's also shot footage for Episode 9. And her family, like her brother and daughter, have come out and said that they are totally okay with Lucasfilm and Disney using previously shot footage of her for Episode 9. I mean, what do you think, Steve? If this were you and you're making the decision, how much do you try to write around, or how much do you try to use old footage? I mean, how would you make that decision?
I mean, I would try to honor the family's wishes. I think that, I mean, I know that they own kind of the rights, but that they had decided not to bring her into some future films. Am I missing this or no?
I don't remember exactly at this moment if they said they don't want to use her for future films, but I think they said they wanted to talk about it and kind of see what Lucasfilm and Disney had in mind. We talked about how we thought that they probably wouldn't use her because it might be tricky, because I mean, that's my belief. I think it would be tricky. Yeah, obviously expensive, but if it fit, a storytelling purpose, I could see making the case to make that expense happen. But I think it's just going to be tricky to try to use previously shot footage to make it work.
Yeah, this isn't putting, like a Highlander fallen victim behind a post in a parking garage. This is a little bit more complex than that.
Sure.
But it will be interesting regardless to see what they do and how that meshes with her kin. So
yeah, I agree. Steve, you have anything else?
Yeah. So there was just a small thing that came out recently. Some photos that were released from Henry Cavill's screen test when he tested for the Man of Steel in Christopher Reeve's iconic Superman suit. which
Yeah,
I thought was kind
saw
of cool.
that.
I mean, you see, Man of Steel, you see Justice League, you see all these things where he's got the new suit and it's, it's slick and chic and all the rest, but donning the old school, and it's all in black and white, so you can't really, you don't get a really good sense as to how dated that costume probably looks, but and this was before he really bulked up, but anyway, there's just some cool shots and kind of cool to get a little nod to the past.
I really liked the black and white shot. I just thought it had kind of a really cool look to it. But then, like you just said, I started wondering if, the last time Christopher Reeve wore that was like, what, 1988?
87, 88, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there, maybe even 89 for Superman 4. So that's been around for probably a good close to, 15 years by the time he screen tested. So probably been in the back of somebody's car, in the window to get right, yeah,
sun.
15, 20 years. Maybe the reason the black and white filter was applied was, to make it look better than it would have. Like, right. Why is the red of the S pink?
Look more like pink, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the yellow looks like a really light yellow, like a color of, I don't know, daisies or something. I don't know, something.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you look at some of those, even the later films, you're kind of like, it's even back then, it maybe wasn't looking the best.
Let me ask you this, though. Man of
chintzy.
Steel, in the Man of Steel, the costume, it's kind of the more muted colors. It's still blue and red and yellow, but it's really kind of muted, and Zack Snyder kind of gave it a darker feel, which, Zack Snyder's kind of thing. But if he would have worn, like, the more traditional, like, brighter blue, yellow, and red, would you have liked that more?
I think that there's probably a nice mix. I don't really like the depressed Superman. I think that works with Batman because that's just kind of his persona, and Gotham City has always been kind of a dark. But when you think about Metropolis, when you think about the comics, if you're holding true to that and not kind of writing your own story, Superman isn't dark and dreary. It's not
at all.
He is the representation of everything that is good.
Truth,
and
justice, and the American way.
Hey, man. So I think I'd like to, obviously the costume itself, it obviously, is very, I don't want to say revealing, that sounds really weird, but very defined. It's
very revealing Superman outfit.
Working out those quads, Henry. So to see kind of that definition and kind of the new age look with a more colorful emblem might be kind of a nice mix.
I would have taken the more colorful outfit. To me, that just screams Superman. And let's be honest, at the end of Batman v Superman, and gosh, spoiler alert if you haven't seen that already, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of Batman v Superman, where you've got Wonder Woman and Batman, in their alter egos, standing over Superman, Clark Kent's grave. And right at the very end, you see like some of the dirt kind of like lift off and like hover over the coffin. We all know he's coming back. We know he's coming back. There's no way you don't. It's Superman. You don't kill Superman after 2 films and then let it go when you're trying to get a whole freaking DC universe going. Superman is your man. You got to have him. Here's my thing, though. When he comes back, ditch that crappy suit. Get back to the brighter blue and red and yellow and, distinguish yourself from the, hey, I'm a depressed Batman and I had to murder General Zod and I destroyed, half of New York. Gotham, go with the whole, I am freaking Superman.
Yeah. Like Captain America, Iron Man, all of those suits are up to date. They look slick, but they're still bright, colorful. You know.
And I meant, sorry, and before anyone who's listening says, he said they destroyed Gotham. Metropolis. Sorry, just a simple misspoke. A slip of the tongue. I know it wasn't Gotham, just saying. Anyway.
Yep. So that's just a little something.
Cool. I loved that. I thought it was a great photo. One more I've got in Rebel Intelligence this week. So, have I told you how much I like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
You've not.
Going back to his... Well, let me tell you, Steve. I love Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Since The Rock was a wrestler way back in the day, even back in the day, like I looked at him and I knew that he had charisma and he could talk. I mean, he was great on the microphone, great interviewer, just had a lot of charisma. And so like I knew he was going to transcend professional wrestling way back in the day, that he would jump into movies. And of course, he's all over the place now. I mean, obviously he was just in Moana and had a big role as Maui in that. He's in the upcoming Baywatch movie. He's been in Disney movies for kids. He's been in action movies. He's been like in HBO shows. I mean, he's everywhere, right? Because he's, a really good looking guy, really fun, really exciting, right? Well, he is doing a remake or a reboot of Jumanji, which comes out, I believe, later this year. Also with Karen Gillan, who played Amy Pond on Doctor Who. And I just absolutely love her. So he's doing that, and then he's also doing a video game adaptation or movie adaptation of a video game, Rampage. And I know you remember Rampage from the old days.
Oh, don't I ever.
I have no clue what that movie is going to be.
Right, exactly.
But it's got The Rock in it, so I'll probably see it. Now,
how's that going to transcend? Yeah.
Here's where this gets interesting. He has just signed on to do a movie based on the Disneyland ride, The Jungle Cruise. Now, if you've been to Disneyland, you know that the Jungle Cruise is like this little boat, and you kind of go through like the jungle, and it's not super exciting. They got these like old animatronic like elephants and monkeys and alligators, but the kind of the fun thing is like the little tour guide that takes you on the little boat always kind of makes these like jokes and bad puns and whatnot, but it's almost always different, and it makes it entertaining. And it's kind of nice. It's right next to Indiana Jones, and so it's got this kind of cool, like almost Indiana Jones feel to it. Well, they are going to make that into a Disney movie, and The Rock is going to star in it. Now, I say this and I laugh now, but if you recall, we go back a number of years, they took another Disneyland ride, Pirates of the Caribbean, and they turned that into a movie starring Johnny Depp, and that franchise has made Disney a boatload of cash. So, can they capture lightning in a bottle a second time, Steve?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. That's what I'm going to say. That's right. No. I don't know. I think that the Pirates theme just has more legs to it as opposed to just a vanilla jungle theme that's almost going to be like a road trip with, who's that with? Was that with, Who's the road trip with, was it Martin Short? No, not Martin Short, Martin Lawrence. Wasn't it Martin Lawrence when he's like taking his kids to anyway, he gets off anyway, the dang story where somebody gets off the beaten trail and is all lost. Like, how far can that go?
It's called National Lampoon's Vacation, Steve.
Well, right. Yeah. But anyway.
We're going to Wally World. Wally World.
Sorry,
that's
the park's
me.
Closed. So anyway, I think that it's going to be tough to make that into a successful multi-level depth-wise franchise. I don't know. That's just me. Pessimist Madura is what they call me.
Well, you know what? I think I'm going to roll the dice and go with you on this one. I don't know that it's going to be big, but you know what? Prove me wrong. I'll be happy if they prove me wrong, if it becomes huge and everyone loves it and it's super funny and it's got action and like kids can see it and families and everyone. Man, I'd be okay with that. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not like rooting for it to fail. I think it would be awesome to see something, if they can capture lightning in a bottle again. However, the concept of it just makes me question it a little bit. But
yep.
They're Disney. They must know something I don't know.
It is Martin Lawrence, called Road Trip and College Road Trip, just for those just for those haters.
Yeah.
Got 2
By the way,
stars
whatever
on
happened to
IMDb.
Martin Lawrence? I haven't seen him in anything forever. Oh, girl, Shanae. You remember from the Martin Lawrence show?
Yeah. Dang, Gina. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever happened to that guy? I really liked most stuff he did.
Not a lot. Remember he did was it not Undercover Blues? It was called Blues.
Oh, yeah, no. Blue Streak.
Blue Streak, yeah. Those were funny. I thought those were funny.
I loved that movie. That, and I mean, I know he did the Bad Boy movies with Will Smith, and I think there's maybe a third one coming out, but I'm just saying I haven't seen him in a while. Anyway.
No,
listen, I'll reach out to Martin Lawrence's people, find out what's going on. How about that?
Oh, dude. I just saw on IMDb he passed away last year. No, I'm kidding. That's not true.
Dude, you can't do that.
But seriously, he hasn't been in anything. Where's he been in? The last thing he's been in per IMDb is 2014 Partners, which was a TV series. But besides that, like Big Mama's House in 2011.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Oh, yeah, Big Mama. I forgot about Big Mama's House. That was actually a pretty funny movie.
But still, not like a big movie. Like in 2011. It's been a long time.
Yeah, that's a while ago. I mean, 6 years ago since he had something big. Maybe he's just raising kids and, doing the dad thing like we are.
Yeah, maybe he's just run his own podcast, The Martin Lawrence Show. Podcast.
Martin! Oh, yes. All right, that's all I got for Rebel Intelligence, man.
I'm done.
All right, let's close this book and move on, as they say. Every month we do a movie club. And last month we did Doctor Strange, and it was a lot of fun. We had a good time with Peter Christensen and Brita. And we've decided what the movie club is going to be for the month of April. In about 2 weeks, we are going to review and talk about the movie Hidden Figures, which is a great movie. I've seen it twice already. I love movies about NASA, and I love movies about like the space program. And I think probably, as you pointed out last week, I went to space camp. And by the way,
you posted the picture.
I did. Yep.
Can I ask you a question about that picture?
You sure can.
What is that face you're making?
I don't know. I mean, I was like in 5th or 6th grade at the time. Did someone ask you to
smile? Because it looks like a failed attempt. I don't know.
So if I look at that picture, I know exactly when this was taken. The picture was actually taken at Halloween, like a few months after I came back from space camp. I went to space camp, by the way, with Andy Barnes, a real good friend of mine. And
shout out to Andy.
Yeah. Not that he's listening, but if anyone does know Andy Barnes and I went in 5th grade. And anyway, that Halloween, I needed a costume. And so I figured I got the jumpsuit and the hat from space camp, and let's just go with that. And so
I still have my face frozen from the gyroscope, so I'll just go with that.
Right. So anyway, that's what that picture was about. I love space stuff. I love NASA. I grew up with my dad watching like the Right Stuff and Apollo 13. As a kid, I would watch the Space Camp movie. Remember where they end up launching into orbit these kids from space camp? And, I love that kind of stuff. So with that being said, we decided we wanted to talk about Hidden Figures, which is the story of these 3 influential black women in the 60s who break trails and are instrumental in getting the Mercury 7 astronauts into space. And so 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk about Hidden Figures.
Yeah. And I actually, just on a side note, I actually started reading the book, kind of in preparation for that as well. And it's interesting that even the prologue just talks about the author's kind of growing up, and she grew up obviously around, I think it's Virginia or whatnot, but all around that area, and said, she didn't know otherwise. That she said in quotes, I mean, she says in the prologue, she said, I didn't know black folks did anything else, but were mathematicians, and because she would go to her father's office, and all of these women were there, and they were like basically quote unquote human computers. I mean, they were just phenomenal mathematicians. So
how cool is that, right?
That's
to
awesome.
Think about that in the 60s. I mean, definitely, and you kind of get a sense of that in the movie, and we'll talk about it later, obviously, but you kind of get a sense of that in the movie that like Langley, Virginia, and the space program was really treating racial equality differently than everywhere else in the country, because they were trying to get, as President Kennedy had said, a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
Yep.
And that's before we even put a man into outer space, let alone he said by the end of the decade, we're going to put a man on the moon. Gosh, like I said, I'm not trying to go there because we're going to talk about other stuff, but I love this stuff so much. Just the gumption that the president had to say, here's this lofty goal. Here's this goal that's literally out of this world, yet we, on the back of American ingenuity and hard work and invention, are going to find a way to do this great and noble, wonderful thing. And I'm starting to wax poetic, so let's move on.
Yeah, no, we'll get there. But no, it is. It's cool, and to see a country get behind them towards one goal. Talk about a uniting, a catalyst for unity. That's pretty cool.
I'm telling you, Mars, man, that's the next thing. Mars,
the sun.
We want a solar colony on the sun. We had a little bit of problem with the hot water. We couldn't get the hot water to work right. Yeah,
to turn off. All right. Well, cool. Very cool. So that's going to be upcoming in
about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So end of this month. So go ahead and watch Hidden Figures. Yeah. You got it. Last week we had a wonderful conversation about cyborgs. We talked, with the new Ghost in the Shell movie and Cyborg coming up in Justice League. We talked about cyborgs, and then we decided that we were going to field a basketball team. And so we decided, to pick a top five basketball team of cyborgs and a sixth man, a Tony Kukoc, if you will. And we asked you, the listeners, what would be your cyborg to play on the basketball team, or your favorite cyborg? And we got some responses, so let's go to them, Steve. Going over to Facebook. Let's start there. I got a response on Facebook. Eric Gifford, my brother-in-law, he says, Lobot. He never disobeys you and is always on call. He won't get a big head and be a ball hog. Now, Lobot, just for those of you that may not remember, he's Lando's right-hand man on Cloud City. He's got the kind of the mechanical thing that's attached to his head, kind of going around the back and covering his ears, and then was able to kind of do the do on his little keypad, and Lobot wakes up and responds. That's Lobot, just in case you needed a refresher, people.
Nice, so, very nice.
Eric and I are big Star Wars nerds. We get together at Christmas times, and we end up talking about Star Wars and playing Star Wars trivia games that go on for hours because no one can beat the other one. We all know it. And matter of fact, the last Christmas we did that, my father-in-law, his dad, got to the point where he was just reading questions, and it was me and Eric and our other brother-in-law, Matt, and literally my father-in-law had been reading questions for an hour and a half, and none of us had missed one. And so finally I was fine, I'm just going to throw this thing. I want to go to bed. And so I purposely answered wrong, and they're like, come on, you knew that. I'm like, all right, fine. I knew it. I was just trying
It was called the Millennium Falcon.
I was like, twin ion engine is a TIE fighter. I know, just kind of tossing that one. And so then we kept going and went on for another 2 hours. It was ridiculous. We had to just declare a three-way tie because no one could best anyone else. Granted, the game was also a little easy, I felt. It could have been a harder
Star Wars
questions.
Trivia Junior.
Actually, it was Guess Who with Star Wars characters.
Do you have a black helmet?
Right. Okay, moving on over to Twitter. Let's see here. We asked you your favorite cyborg, and we got some answers. Josh Stapleton at cred_81. What is up, my brother? He said, Kano from Mortal Kombat. He'd come off the bench as the muscle of the team. Position wouldn't matter. He'd just rip the heart out of an opponent. If you remember Kano, he kind of had a half skeleton that was steel and whatnot, and that was his finisher. He would just reach in and grab the opponent's heart and rip it out. And my brother, of course, posted a GIF of that online, and it's a lot of fun to watch. The Nerd Father at dspin67 says, I have two. Steve Austin, a.k.a. $6 Million Man. He would be a shooting guard. And RoboCop. He can play any position he wants. You tell him he can't. I love that. Chowfie at that Chowfie says, my fave is Cyborg from Team Titans Go. He's super versatile, small forward, and tons of fun. Also reminds me of Gabe from Married to the Games.
Oh my gosh, my kids watch that show. Freaking hilarious.
Yes.
Good call,
yes,
Chowfie.
Yes. And then going over also on Twitter, Grouchy Surge at Backlog Blues says, the Daleks are my favorite cyborg. Not sure if they fit your definition, but that's my pick. Now, the Daleks from Doctor Who are like these like little alien creatures that kind of look like a brain from like Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they're surrounded in what looks like a large salt shaker that's about 4.5 feet high that's got like a plunger, like a toilet bowl plunger on one side and like this like little laser on the other for their mechanical arms. They're dang freaky, and their whole thing is just exterminate. Like that's all they're like, exterminate, and they just kill everyone. So if you had them on your basketball team, that's all they would do is they would kill the opponents and then, not care about the game, and then they'd kill everyone in the crowd. That's my take on it.
So I assume the other team would have to forfeit then. Is that right?
Well, I mean, how can you forfeit when you're dead, though? I mean,
that's true.
Anyway, going over to the old email for the long form answer. Steve, can you take a guess who this is?
One and only Peter Christensen.
Ding, 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 ding. You got it, my man. Dear nerds, while you were discussing your cyborg basketball teams, I sat in my car poised like a cobra ready to strike. My fellow commuters on I-90, thank you for mentioning RoboCop, Darth Vader, and Inspector Gadget. No road rage outbursts ensued. To round out my squad, I'd have Bucky, the Winter Soldier. I see your Luke's robotic hand and raising an entire robotic arm. Ooh. And possibly skirting the rules a little, Data from the Goonies. I think you guys described the game correctly, but you forgot to mention that Inspector Gadget would definitely get the tip off. My favorite cyborg was, of course, RoboCop, with a thigh full of firepower, the ability to walk up and down stairs, and a USB short sword in his middle finger. No one was more awesome. Thanks for another great episode, Peter.
The ability to walk up and down stairs.
Right? Like, you got to think about that for half a second. Most cyborgs probably couldn't do that. So anyway, thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone else that responded to our questions. We love interacting with our fans, and just great answers. Great to hear from you and to get that in. Steve, we're growing as a podcast. We're gaining new listeners. We're gaining new friends. We're getting interaction like we just discussed with people on Twitter and Facebook and the old email. We're looking for more listeners. We want our friends to help us out. How can they do that?
Well, they can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as a colony on the sun.
Right. Solar colony on the sun, man.
That's right.
It's going to happen, I swear.
That's going to be my platform. If I ever run for president, that's my platform. Colonize the sun!
I want to be like that guy in New York. The rent is too darn high, and that's going to be my platform. And that's it. Right. Steve, yes. I want to talk about something, but I think the only way to open up this conversation is to do it like this. Great Odin's Raven! Have you seen the Thor Ragnarok trailer?
I have, and it is awesome. It is
glorious, my friend.
It is awesome. It's funny. It leaves a lot to the imagination, yet still leaves you guessing on a few things. So it's yeah. I love it. And the best line, though, I've got to say, for those that haven't seen it, the best line is when Thor is brought into the arena. You know what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. And Jeff Goldblum's character is like, enter the Hulk, and he's like, oh, I know him.
We're work friends.
Yeah, he's like, we work together.
Yes. All right, so let's get into this. I thought we should talk about this trailer, break it down, and also I want to talk about some of the Norse mythology, because I'm really curious after watching this trailer how much of the idea of Ragnarok is actually in this thing So let's get to it. And I think the best way we can do that to start this off is with a little immigrant song. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, man.
Come to the land of the ice and
that
snow.
trailer, when it starts off with immigrant. Okay, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about how music and trailers can do a lot. Now, is there a more perfect song for Thor Ragnarok than Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin?
There is not.
How would you do it better? I can't think of it.
Love it.
The second that started playing and I hear the drum, dun, 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 I mean, I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan, so I immediately know what it is. But I'm such a Zeppelin fan that I understand that when Led Zeppelin wrote this song, like they went to Reykjavik, Iceland to do a show, and like the show was being canceled due to like some political stuff that was going on. And so like the student union ended up setting up a concert like in a hall somewhere. And while they were there, they were just kind of watching everything and they were really getting into Norse mythology. And so they wrote this song that literally comes like right out of Norse mythology. I mean, like it fits in perfectly. And so the fact that Marvel and Disney got rights, because I imagine that they actually had to go and talk to the remaining members of Led Zeppelin, because
Jimmy Page,
John Paul Jones.
Will you do the honors of just reading some of the lyrics of the opening
Absolutely.
stanza?
Okay, so Immigrant Song. These are the lyrics written by Led Zeppelin. We come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs blow, the hammer of the gods. We will drive our ships to new lands, to fight the horde, singing and crying, Valhalla, I am coming. On the sweep with threshing oar, our only goal will be the western shore.
That's some freaking lyrics, man.
Dude, right?
Woo.
I mean, this was written in the 1970s.
This isn't like, here's my number, call me baby. Like, that's some freaking lyrics.
Right. I mean, they have the word Valhalla in there. Yeah, it's not going to be a little catchy pop tune that's like 2 minutes long, that everyone sings and it's, everywhere. But Immigrant Song, off the Led Zeppelin 3 album.
Yep.
That whole album was kind of meant to be a concept album, kind of like a one thing, but Immigrant Song ended up becoming like a real big, like kind of standout hit on that album. Yep. And it's a favorite of mine. I have listened to it, thousands and thousands of times. Couldn't be a more perfect fit for this trailer.
Could you do the audience a favor as well and sing the stanza that talks about the hammer of the gods? I just love it when you do it.
We come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs blow. Hammer of the gods, we drive our ships to new lands, to fight the horde, singing and crying, Valhalla, I am coming.
Your face almost was the same from that picture of the Space Cam, man. That was awesome.
Right. I am not Robert Plant, by the way. Robert Plant is a vocal god. I am just a mere mortal. I am not one of the Aesir. I am not a Norse god like he is.
But I think it's cool though that they've taken this Marvel character and really tried to maybe not stay true to the entire story, but really integrate a lot of where Thor actually comes from into the story, which I think is notable. It's cool. I like that.
Right. I got the sense the first Thor movie and the second Thor movie always felt very, very like highbrow, Sir Anthony Hopkins, right? The first movie is directed by Kenneth Branagh. It's very much like here's Asgard and presenting Asgard in like its kind of highlight, almost like if we were doing a movie about like, Arthur and Camelot, it would be very like, this is the best part and showing, the majestic portion, right? And in the trailer for Ragnarok, though, it's like there's more humor, obviously. They're showing a lot of action in this trailer, and it seems more like we're now getting into like the nitty gritty. Like it's less of the high Asgard. It's more
polished.
This is more like war is here and, battle, and it's grittier. I like that direction. I think that's the direction you have to go if you're telling the tale of Ragnarok.
Which, again, for background purposes, I mean, just to give everyone a kind of a very high level of Norse mythology with regard to what Ragnarok is, it's really kind of the fable that includes the great battle foretold, long ago, that includes the death of a number of major figures in Norse mythology, including, the gods Odin, Thor,
the All-Father. Yep.
Right. And I'll ruin all of these other names, so I'll let you do them. But Tyre and
Tyr.
Sure. And the others. Anyway, but
no. Try it. Come on. Let's hear the pronunciation. Freyr.
Sure. And Hemledar. No, I don't even. Anyway.
Heimdall.
Exactly.
Right. But hey, Steve, how's your Heimdall doing?
Actually, a little sore.
Yeah, me too.
From all that cheese. So anyway, and then the world is to be submerged in water, and afterward the world resurfaces anew and fertile, and the surviving and returning gods meet, and the world is repopulated by two survivors, and so it's an important event in Norse mythology, which is obviously now becoming kind of woven into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right, and to be perfectly honest, Ragnarok is kicked off by Loki. Loki ends up killing one of right. Loki ends up because Loki is the god of mischief, and Loki ends up killing another god, Baldur, and Baldur gets consigned to go to the underworld, and Odin tries to figure a way to bring Baldur back from the underworld, and this kind of kicks off all the action that kind of takes place. And there's some conflict there. And in the end, Loki ends up leading a charge of the Hel, the actual Norse god that's control the underworld, comes with Loki to basically wreak havoc and have this huge all-out war. And that's the real story of Ragnarok. Now, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I mean, they're going to have to go a little different, right? Because they're not going to be able to do the whole Ragnarok story, because we can assume we're going to have Thor in the Avengers Infinity War. So let's break down this trailer and let's try to piece out what we know or what we think we can know from it without actually knowing all of it. So we start in the very beginning of this trailer. Thor is in chains. He's kind of hanging in this pit. Do you think this is how we get the movie? Do you think this is how the movie starts? It's going to be like a prologue, and he's going to be kind of talking to say this is how we got here. Or do you think this is just going to be that dialogue was recorded just for the trailer?
That is a good question. If I had to guess, I would think that maybe it starts that way. Maybe it starts that way, but that's only 3/4, obviously, of the way into the actual story. So we'll pass that point later on in the movie.
Right. I think you're right there. So the first real thing we see besides that is we see Thor's hammer. We can assume it's been thrown at Cate Blanchett, who's playing Hela, and she's basically the god of the underworld, right? And she's charged with basically having all the damned souls that don't, that are not honorable, that don't go up to Valhalla. She's got control of them. We see her holding Thor's hammer, and she ends up with some sort of energy blowing up his hammer. Mjolnir, or Mew Mew, as it was put in the first Thor movie. Mew Mew, Mjolnir, explodes, right?
Right.
So how is she worthy to be able to control, to be able to pick up and hold Thor's hammer? Because in the movies so far, only Thor has had that ability, and then Vision in Civil War picked it up. So, I mean, do you think she's actually worthy, or do you think she's using some sort of a magic and that's how she's able to do it? What do you think?
I would probably say the latter. Yeah, I mean, that's just my guess. Because she was released unintentionally, right, from her hellish prison.
Yes, I believe so. I believe that's what they're going to be doing in the MCU with her.
Yeah. So, my guess is that she has not worthy, but has got some induced energies or powers where she can touch the hammer.
Totally side note, in this trailer, when you see her like that, does she do anything for you?
Freaking awesome.
Dude, she's hot. Well, I'm just going to say right there, like...
She is. Like, that look. Look at that look. My gosh. No.
Kate Blanchett's really a very, very pretty woman just in real life, but for some reason with, like, the dark hair and kind of the spandexy, like, kind of sport, like, I don't know, that suit she's wearing, like, and it's kind of, like, ripped up and, like, shredded. She looks like a goth hot to me. Like, I feel like I'm in the 1990s and I need to wrap some flannel around my waist and wear a long chain.
You're at Hot Topic right now, and right. You just met her in the clothing section, so you come here often. Nice eyeshadow. No, but she's phenomenal, whatever she is in. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Lord of the Rings or Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, whatever. She's amazing.
Yeah, Chronicles of Narnia. Are you thinking of Tilda Swinton, Swami, Samsonite? Man, I was way off.
No, wasn't she the ice god?
Nope, I don't believe so.
Oh. Well,
she was.
IMDb will be the judge of that.
Yeah. She also played in The Aviator opposite Leo DiCaprio. I mean, gosh, she is super, super, super talented. But while you IMDb that, it's curious, that she's able to hold Mjolnir and she destroys it. I mean, yeah, I like the idea that Thor is now going to be without his hammer because it's going to make him have to rely upon some of his other innate abilities.
Right.
Which I know in the comics that's kind of a played out thing, like he loses his hammer and then he's got to do stuff. But actually in Norse mythology, he's lost his hammer before and he's had to like go and get it or, earn it back. So this isn't like outside of the realm of like, actual Norse mythology. So
okay, yeah, maybe it was Tilda Swinton, but
I told you it's Tilda Swinton, but whatever. So let's move on. In the trailer, we see Hela, but it's like in some sort of like alternate dimension, probably actually the underworld, where you see her with all those horns coming out of her head. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. What did you think about that? Like, I thought that was kind of a really cool look.
Yeah, it almost reminds me a little bit of Maleficent from the Disney cinematic universe.
Kind of.
But one thing that she said in an interview is that that actually can be used as a weapon, and that there are parts of her, I don't know, of her body that manifest themselves as weapons. So we shall see. We shall see.
Right. So. Kind of moving on, we see Hela in Asgard, and it's like her, and then on the opposite side of her looks like something like 1,000 soldiers, and like they're all prepared to do battle. So here's my thought. Ragnarok, the story of, Loki kind of kicking off Ragnarok and killing Balder, and then, bringing, the god or the goddess of the underworld up. That's obviously going to play in somehow because we do see that shot of Loki like flipping the knives and, looks like he's doing some sort of battle. Do you actually think that the Ragnarok of the Norse mythology is just going to be applied to Asgard. And that's that scene where we see kind of all that, like, what looks like smoke and destruction.
Wave of fire.
Right. I mean, do you think that's just that?
No, because, I mean, being that Thor's, I guess, call or charge is to protect Earth, I mean, I assume that it would be beyond just Asgard. I think it would be, I think she wants more. I think that it encompasses many more planets than just that.
Right, okay. So
that's my thought.
Maybe. I'm just trying to think, like, in the MCU, if they did that, you know, how would that play out? Because wouldn't something that big, like, end up...
Call in the other Avengers?
Yeah, right? You know, and I know we're probably not going to see the other Avengers get back together until Infinity War, because they've all kind of broken apart after the Civil War, right? Captain America's Civil War. So I don't know. We do know that in, what was it, Thor in Avengers Age of Ultron, Heimdall, the kind of the keeper of the, you know, the Rainbow Gate, the Rainbow Road, the Bifrost, tells Thor that he sees a vision that Thor's going to lead Asgard to hell.
Yeah.
Do you think this is part of that we're seeing? He's going to, this destruction of Asgard?
Absolutely. I think this is probably the beginning of that prophecy foretold. How is your Heimdall, by the way?
My Heimdall's doing better now. Thank you.
Good. Very good. Stretch it out.
So here's where in the trailer, though, things kind of go sideways. Now, if you were a big comic nerd and you love The Incredible Hulk, there's this huge comic storyline from, like, I think 2006 called Planet Hulk. And the story of Planet Hulk is that basically the Avengers take the Incredible Hulk and they convince him that there's some sort of problem in outer space, and they put him up in this capsule so he can go up there to take care of it. Actually, Tony Stark really thinks that because of the events that have transpired beforehand, the Incredible Hulk is too powerful and too dangerous on Earth. So they actually jettison him out into outer space with the idea that they're going to land him on a safe planet, an uninhabited planet. And actually what happens is...
I was going to say, for that jettison, I think he took Amazon's blue orbit, I think so. Yeah.
Except they renamed it Green Orbit, maybe?
That's right.
So anyway, Planet Hulk, though, he ends up getting jettisoned, and he goes through a wormhole, and Hulk lands on this big planet, Sakaar, or Sacker, but I think it's Sakaar. And Sakaar is this big planet where this red-skulled kind of king rules, and he basically has people fight in a gladiatorial arena for him. Right. And the Hulk is there with some other alien races that are on that planet, and that's it. Now, this is where, though, the Thor Ragnarok trailer to me looked like it was melding into Thor Planet Hulk, because we see Thor like being dropped off on like what looks like kind of like this junk world, like it looks like trash and garbage kind of all over, right? And then we see this appearance of these aliens that have this like big gun that like shoots out this big like webbing and this net that captures Thor.
It's electrified.
Yeah, and it also like shocks him as he goes down, which I kind of find funny with him being the god of, you know, thunder and lightning, and, you know, they're using electricity against him. Like, you think that he'd, you know, not be immune, or would be immune to that maybe. But he gets captured, and he gets captured by, and this is a very interesting thing, he gets captured by a character known as Valkyrie. And the Valkyrie that he's captured, like in the Norse mythology, like the Valkyrie are these kind of like women warriors that like ride these like winged steeds that help take the dead souls of the honorable to Valhalla. And we see a Valkyrie like capturing Thor, right?
Right.
And later on, we actually see like this big battle, and you see like these Valkyrie like in the air fighting, and it looks like fighting Hela, and then like you start seeing some of them falling from the sky, like kind of the fall of the Valkyrie. So I think we're going to see like this big battle. I mean, we know we're going to see this big battle, but like we're going to see other parts of it. It's not just going to be, I think, kind of the traditional like Thor and his pals and Odin, but it's going to be, these Valkyrie. I love the idea of the Valkyrie being in this because to me, like it kind of hits more on the kind of the Norse mythology side of things. But, that's there.
Well, let me ask this though: how do you see them getting involved in the fight? So what would you see their motivation to throw their hat in the ring against Hela?
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, and this is just speculation, but what I'm thinking is that the Valkyries, for some reason, like are continuing to do their job and to escort the departed souls to Valhalla that belong there, but that a few of these Valkyrie, maybe some of the more powerful or strong or influential ones, are maybe staying out of the fight. And this one particular one that captures Thor is somehow convinced by Thor while he's in the gladiatorial arena or on this planet that looks like Sakaar, to join his cause. And he convinces her that he has noble blood and, honorable intentions, and convinces her to recruit the other Valkyrie to take sides and get involved. That's what I think is going to happen, but I totally could be wrong. I mean, this trailer was only 2 minutes and 30 seconds long, so right. I could be reading way more into it. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Odin has some say in it, and I think that he, as an overarching, in his position, I guess, may have some say as to what the Valkyrie do, and their, I don't know if they see it as kind of a suicide mission to attack Hela, but they have to based on his command, and I wonder. I just wonder if they would be reluctant soldiers in the fight.
Well, I wonder if, because right now, in the last time we saw Odin, Odin was actually disappeared and gone, maybe dead, and Loki, as the trickster, was making himself look like Odin. And so maybe Loki is, in his Odin disguise, is convincing the Valkyrie to stay out of this, and it's Thor who ends up bringing them back in and convinces them that something's wrong and it's not really Odin. Maybe. I mean, we could be wrong. Moving on, there's a quick shot which you see Thor being strapped down to this chair. Is he sitting in a barber's chair? Is that what it looks like to you? Because the next immediate shot is, his hair's been cut. So here's my question. Did Thor donate to Locks of Love?
Definitely, and I got them. Thank heavens. Thank you. Thank you, Thor. So right, we see a shaved down Thor. His hair's, obviously much, much, much shorter there in that shot. So here's the thing I kind of liked when they show him for the first time with kind of in this trailer with this shaved down hair, it's cut down. He's got this red face paint on, kind of he's got 3 kind of lines kind of on the right side. And this is where we're going to get really off the rails nerdy here. I know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah. Okay. So there in the 13th century, there's a poem. It's called Poetic Edda. It's this poem that contains references to Ragnarok, and the actual poem is called Voluspa. Anyway, here's the English translation of part of Ragnarok from the 13th century, the Norse mythology. It says, "It sates itself on the lifeblood of fated men, paints red the powers' homes with crimson gore. Black becomes the sun's beams in the summers that follow. Weather's all treacherous. Do you still seek to know, and what?" This little, though, stanza of this poem, it talks about, crimson and gore and painting red the power homes. So when I saw him with the kind of the red paint, and he's got red paint on his shield, I kind of went, as I was looking at this, I kind of went and looked back and I said, this kind of feels like they're taking stuff directly out of like the original, poem that was written, that some of the early references in Norse mythology of Ragnarok. I love that idea.
See, I kind of went a different way. I really thought that they might have, kind of had a contemporary in Mel Gibson's Braveheart, and freedom
Right.
for Asgard. No, that you probably are right. I am probably not right.
So we see, we can assume that this planet is Sakaar, and we see Thor there, and he gets shaven, and then the next things we see Jeff Goldblum, right? Like, yep. Jeff freaking Goldblum is in this movie. I'm to the point now, Steve, where I feel like every big name actor at some point is going to end up in a Marvel movie, because there's so many dang Marvel movies. It's like, we've got, Sir Anthony Hopkins. Right,
Yep.
I mean, it's just everyone. It's like, when is Tom Cruise going to show up? That's all I want to know.
When's Ben Affleck going to know? He's not welcome. He's not welcome here. You shall not be in this movie.
Right. So the Grandmaster's the character that Anthony Hopkins plays. He kind of reminded me of the Collector.
Goldblum.
No, yeah, Jeff Goldblum, but he's playing the Grandmaster's his character's name.
Right, not Anthony Hopkins.
Right, correct.
Yes.
He reminds me though of the Collector, though. He looks like Benicio del Toro a little bit from the Guardians movie, doesn't he?
I was thinking more. What's his name on Hunger Games? The show announcer.
Oh, yes. I'm gonna space his name because I totally wasn't thinking that.
He's not important enough.
No. That's a good call. I mean, he kind of looks like that, but I think he belongs to like the same race of kind of like aliens that the Collector belongs to, that we saw in the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, who has, like we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago on Doctor Strange, the guy that's kind of collecting the Infinity Stones.
Right.
So we see him. We also see the return of Idris Elba's character Heimdall, yep. Which, he's kind of the all-seeing guardian of Asgard. He's got this wicked-looking sword that he's swinging around.
And these like Michael Jackson Thriller contacts.
Right, exactly. None shall pass the evil of the Thriller. Stanley Tucci's the actor in that. Yeah. So do you think Heimdall's on this Sakaar with Thor? I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from the shots. It looks like, he's he slashes through some alien creature in an unknown jungle. So the jungle environment kind of threw me because it didn't look like the junkyard that is Sakaar. So
right. Did you notice that Carl Urban's in this movie?
Yeah.
He's got he's got on all armor, and he's wielding like those two like AR-15 looking guns and just like cat, going away with those.
Yeah, I only knew that because I did a little post action research, but
try to figure out who he was.
Yeah, he's got some wicked hair, man. You should do that with your hair.
I don't know. That's hair. I think it's tattoos.
You should get a tattoo then.
I should put those tattoos on my head. Well, I'll take that under advisement and see how Brita feels. Hey, kids, Daddy has to wear a hat to church now because he's got tattoos on his skull.
Daddy has 2 horns.
Right. So he's going to be in that. I'm not exactly sure what he's going to be playing, but obviously if he's shooting at someone's not having a good day. Right? Yeah.
He's in the mix.
Yeah. We talked about Loki. We see Loki in this. He's like flipping knives around. This looks to me like this could be an Asgard. Maybe he's in, maybe part of, the bringing the destruction of Ragnarok to Asgard.
Right.
But kind of the last thing we see is Thor in the arena. He's got this shield. He's got this big kind of like, hammer, this club, and he puts on that helmet. And then he kind of flips down the kind of the wings, so it kind of looks like the traditional kind of old comic style helmet that Thor wears. I liked that. I mean, gosh, I like that Marvel has done stuff and changed up costumes for each of its main characters in almost every movie. But like this like throwback I really enjoyed.
Yeah, just a little nod to the comics I thought was kind of a cool touch as well.
Right.
It reminded me of Adventures in Baby City.
Yes. Right, yeah. So, and then of course, the last thing is we get the introduction from the Grandmaster that, as he says, he's like, "You're incredible." And that's obviously when the Hulk busts forth and doesn't wait for the door to open up all the way. And he comes out and he's screaming. And then of course the best part of the whole trailer, when Thor goes, "Yes!" and shakes his fist.
And the whole audience quiets.
Yeah, you can hear a cricket, and he's like, "I know him. I work with him."
Yeah,
and then
we
of
work
course,
together.
Yeah, we work together. And then of course, you see, Thor realize that the Hulk's going to come at him, and he's got to go toe to toe with him, without Mjolnir. Here's the cool thing, though, Steve. I have read the Planet Hulk comics, and that shot when he comes out and he's got kind of the big armor over the one shoulder, and he's got the big helmet with kind of the red, kind of Spartan-esque plume down the middle. That is taken right out of Planet Hulk. I mean, that is the picture of exactly what he wears in the comic. So here's what I'm thinking, and I've said this for a long time. I want to see a standalone movie of the Incredible Hulk, and I would have loved to see Planet Hulk. However, Universal owns the rights to a standalone Incredible Hulk movie. Now, maybe Disney works out a deal, but it seems like maybe Universal isn't willing to budge and give up on it, because the last one we saw was the Incredible Hulk that had Edward Norton in it. So to me, it almost feels like they're making Thor Ragnarok the Planet Hulk movie, but this is, instead of a solo movie, it's kind of a team up, a buddy movie. It's going to have the two of them in it.
So you're saying Marvel kind of slipped this in so they didn't have to technically make a Planet Hulk movie and involve Universal?
If they would have called this movie Thor instead of Thor Ragnarok, but called it Thor Planet Hulk, I would have been awesome with that, because I would have known that that's what, there still is going to be a lot more. Let's get back to it. 2.5-minute trailer. But everything when we see Thor, crash down, and he's kind of in those chains and bondage, and he's, donating to Locks of Love, and he's in the gladiatorial arena. This all just looks like Sakaar. It all looks like the Planet Hulk storyline. I don't know how much it's going to show and kind of follow along the Planet Hulk storyline, but I think it's Marvel's way of definitely saying, we want to have a story more focused maybe on the Hulk, but we can't do a standalone, so we're going to combine two.
So after the Hulk kind of makes the assault, and you see kind of both he and Thor kind of jump to the middle of the ring,
and Thor goes for that sweet uppercut.
Yeah, it's almost like a Rocky Apollo type of like freeze frame. It cuts to a scene where the Grandmaster is sitting in kind of his box overlooking the festivities, and Loki is sitting there with him.
Right.
So despite the animosity between he and Thor, do you think that he's there to try to bargain with the Grandmaster to get Thor back so as to be able to fight Hela, or do you think he's just there for a good show and looking to see his brother get squashed?
Because I'm looking at the image, and you've got the Grandmaster on one side, and this is once again reading way into it, he looks like he's really dismayed, like maybe Thor is holding his own against the Hulk. And on the complete opposite side of what appears to be like a 10-foot couch, you've got Loki sitting there, who's just kind of watching with kind of a interest, but like he almost kind of knows kind of what could happen or what is going to come from this battle. They look like two very different people watching this thing. And so my suspicion is, because Tom Hiddleston plays Loki perfectly, and he's an excellent bad guy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's an excellent foil for Thor. Because even in Norse mythology, like Loki isn't a bad guy, but he's the god of mischief. And so he ends up getting Thor into these predicaments, or gets the gods, the Aesir, into these predicaments. And then Thor has to go straighten it out. Or they task Loki with having to straighten it out. And he ends up doing these things that are kind of shady to fix it, and hoping he can kind of move past some of this stuff and then do something really good. And people will forget about the fact that, he started all the problems. Right. So my guess is that he brings Hela into Asgard and realizes that it's not going the way he thought it would or wanted, and maybe his ability to control or have power has been diminished or usurped altogether. And so he realizes he needs to bring back his brother Thor to help right the wrongs that he's done, which would fit totally into the Norse mythology and the characters that have been established in the MCU.
Well, and you also think about, the last time that Loki and Hulk met, wasn't the best of outcomes for Loki. So maybe he's looking to see the big green monster get some whooping of his own.
True. Now, here's one thing I want to talk about that was completely absent from this trailer. Doctor Strange. Because if you remember, at the after credits scene of Doctor Strange, you have Thor sitting in New York talking to Doctor Strange, to Stephen, and he's saying, like, I've got a problem with Loki, and we need to resolve this. And Stephen Strange is like all about getting up and doing this. We've heard the rumors that he was, been seen filming for this movie. And we've heard, tales that he's in maybe up to a third of the movie. So he's not just like a 2-minute scene or a 5-minute scene. He was nowhere in this trailer. If he comes in, and if he is involved, which I fully believe he is, do you think we will see him in any of the trailers, or do you think that would be a complete surprise waiting for moviegoers when they go and see the movie in November?
Good question. I think because we've already seen him, and anybody who's going to see this has probably seen, Doctor Strange, and knows that there's already been a nod to his involvement here. So I think they could maybe insinuate somehow, or maybe just do it in a clever way to get people's temperatures rising.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my thought. What about you?
I don't know. I think they keep him out of all the trailers, because you've got enough going on with Thor and with Hulk, and the whole idea that this is Thor Planet Hulk, that I think they keep him out of it. And it's a nice surprise. Maybe he'll show up in like the last third of the movie. I don't know. Maybe like in the last act. But I definitely think we see Stephen Strange, a.k.a. Doctor Strange.
Oh, definitely going to see him. I wonder just in the trailers, though.
Like I think we don't see him in the trailers. I mean, if this were me and I were making the trailers, there'd be too much good footage, because we're going to get this teaser trailer, right? And then probably in a few months, maybe around San Diego Comic-Con, they'll release either another teaser trailer, and then probably sometime in September or October we'll get a full trailer. And so I think in another teaser trailer that's going to release midsummer, they're going to show some more things added to this, maybe a little more dialogue, because this is really, it's like, you may wonder how I got here. And that's kind of the dialogue at the beginning. And then they show some things, like, what have you brought me? When he's, the Grandmaster saying to Valkyrie,
Asgard is dead.
Asgard is dead. And then it's, hey, it's the very end. It's the, we know each other. He's a friend from work. And that's kind of it, as far as dialogue. So it may be a little more dialogue heavy, I think, in the teaser trailer that'll come out sometime midsummer. And then I think in the full trailer, we're going to see a little more story, or a little more idea of maybe where the story's going to go. But I think Doctor Strange doesn't appear in any of them. That's just me, though. Yeah. That's my thoughts. Yeah. So
it's a good trailer. I thought overall it was a really did what a trailer should do.
I'm super excited for Thor Planet Hulk. This looks awesome.
You're renaming it? Is that what you're doing?
That man, come on, that's what this is. It's Thor: Planet Hulk. I'm saying it now. That's what it is. I love
There are
it.
Universal people listening. There's a lawsuit coming. Just be careful.
Nah, I think they're okay. I think they know what they're doing. So let's ask this, because I want to come up with a question for our listeners, because we always want the participation and we enjoy it. Do we see Doctor Strange in one of the other trailers for this movie, and how are they going to use him? So let us know. Tell us your thoughts on that. And once again, you can always answer our weekly question on Twitter. We are at Fort of Nerd. On Facebook, facebook.com/Fort of Nerd, or long form answer, fortofnerd@gmail.com. So we've answered that, Steve. I know you think you said you think it doesn't happen, right?
No, I think there may be a little nod to something, but it's going to be subtle. That's my guess.
So you think a subtle nod. I'm thinking it doesn't happen at all. That's kind of where I'm shaking out. But we'll see what our listeners have to say. Overall, Steve, my love for the Incredible Hulk is well known. I can't wait to see this movie. I want to find out what's been going on, man. Like, how did we get here? What was going on while Civil War was happening? Do these timelines match up? Is this happening at the exact same time, or is this after that? I just can't wait. The other thing is that they were playing the Led Zeppelin, which is obviously a 1970s track. I kind of felt like the graphics and the art at the beginning and the end of the trailer seemed really 1970s as well. Did you get that sense? 70s, early 80s, maybe?
What made you say that?
It was just it looked like they were kind of using really kind of bright, vibrant colors, and they kind of went from the screen towards center screen, kind of like some of the old movie, like the production companies would kind of do at their beginning. Kind of felt like an old VHS tape, like you'd see like the VHS woo 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 woo.
Maybe they were with the 70s music and the 70s to 80s cinematography. Maybe it was just a little bit of a nod. Success of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it could be. So, anyway, great trailer. I can't get enough of it. I'm super excited. Like I said, May, we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. July, we've got Spider-Man Homecoming. November, we've got Thor, Ragnarok. We got some big movies coming up in the MCU this summer and later this year. So
we'll be able to populate well, upcoming months of our movie club as well.
Sure,
we're excited
for
to share that
sure.
with you.
Anyway, Steve, always fun to hang out with you and to do this. Why don't you send us out, man?
Will do. May the Force be with you. Always.